Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of The Dark Hustle. Thank you so much for listening to my podcast and subscribing and following us. It's super cool. You guys are the best. Also, if you are not a member of our Patreon, what are you doing? Go check it out. It's got multiple levels to choose from, and we have early access over there for all of our episodes and a bunch of other stuff. So go check us out on Patreon.
Hey, is this Natalie?
It is.
Hey, it's Brianna. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. You live in Missouri, so it's you guys get hot up there?
Yeah, it gets pretty hot like July and August. And we do have like quite a bit of humidity, so in the last like couple weeks it's been like 90 but feels like 105. So afternoons
Holy
are just
cow.
a no-go for outside.
Yeah, no.
So,
Nobody wants to endure that.
No one does.
Well, I mean, I'm ready if you are.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, cool. So you are an equestrian coach at Missouri State University, correct?
Yes.
And you also teach there too. It's not just coaching?
Correct. So I've got half of my work duties coaching the team, and then half of my duties are teaching, but also on the side of that. So I guess it's not completely 50-50, but I do manage the facility and the herd at the university.
Very cool. So okay. So how did you end up where you're at? How did you end up becoming a coach of an equestrian team at a university? Did you just decide that you were going to do that one day, or did you just kind of end up there?
So it was kind of more like I decided. So I grew up around horses and showing and all of that, and decided I wanted to ride in college. And so there was like pretty much one school that did like the hunt seat, like English stuff, jumping, that I showed and rode in, and also had an equine degree. So I was really blessed with parents who let me embrace my crazy horse girlness and encouraged me to follow my passion. And so I ended up at West Texas A&M to pursue equine business and be on their equestrian team. And so I didn't really know what I wanted to do with that. Kind of like all horse crazy girls, I think we all kind of want to be horse trainers at some point. And so
Right.
I kind of thought like, maybe that's what I want to do. And so...
Well, wait, whoa, hold on a second. So were you born and raised in Missouri or in Texas?
In Texas.
Oh, and then you
Yeah.
migrated to Missouri. That's kind of a rarity. All these horse people I talk to, they end up from somewhere else, and then they end up in Texas. So I've never heard that before.
Yeah, but that's kind of like the interesting about like the collegiate equestrian is like it's, there's not a ton in like one single location, and so it's like kind of a rare job. So you kind of have to want to like live or move wherever the job takes you. And so so I was at West Texas, and I actually ended up switching disciplines like halfway through college, and I worked for a cow horse trainer for a while. And that's when I decided I definitely did not want to be a horse trainer. So, but I had
really?
helped. Yeah, I just like, being like an assistant and like helping like manage the barn and like getting all those horses rode and stuff. I just like it. I decided that was not the life that I wanted to live. And but I did help a couple of his clients like with some like lessons and stuff, and then I taught a few like 4-H kids in the area, and just like really decided like that my passion was teaching people. So I always tell like all of my students like I'm not a horse trainer, I'm a riding instructor, and so my passion really is to like help students or people in general just like connect with their horses and like be better horse people, not necessarily like me making the horse better for them, but having them, helping them like critically think about how to work through their issues or meet their goals or whatever. So about halfway through my junior year in college, I was like, well, I think I want to be a teacher. And I was like, I still want to do horse stuff. So then I was like, well, that'd be really cool to have like a collegiate horse job because why not? And so then I went to Brookings, South Dakota. That's where South Dakota State is, and they have a Division I equestrian team. And so I was their graduate assistant, and I coached horsemanship and also helped with the jumping as well. And so I got my master's there. And so that kind of, and I got my master's in education. So that like official qualifications as far as like degrees to be able to like coach and teach in college. So that's kind of how I got to the place where I'm at.
Well, that's interesting that you touched on something a minute ago about you said that you are a riding instructor and not a horse trainer. And I think that there is a big difference between the two, but you have to still kind of know. Excuse me, I got something in my throat.
You're fine.
But no, I'm glad you touched on that because there is a distinct difference for people that are like just getting into horses or even some that have been into horses. Like, you know, not all of your horse trainers are going to be able to teach people, and not all of your lesson people, coaches, or things of that nature are necessarily as good with the horse. So I think that's cool you said that, and there's a big difference, you know?
Yeah, I totally think so. And, you know, I've seen a lot of, like, really good horse trainers that are not very good with, like, you know, their clients or, like, doing lessons or whatever. And then I've seen, you know, some riding instructors that, you know, are really good with their clients and their students, but, like, maybe shouldn't be, you know, like training on a horse. And I've also seen, you know, we have like a local reining trainer in town, and he is an excellent trainer and he is an excellent instructor. And so it's like really cool to see when those two things come together. But I think, you know, being in the industry, you have to know where your strengths lie. And I would be the first one to say, like, I'm a good rider and like I know how to like ride and put skills on a horse, but like I know that I'm go slow about it and I'm not super disciplined, so I would not like tell people that I train horses.
Well, I mean, it's still, but you still have to know. I mean, it's not saying
yes.
that you don't need to, you know, you still have to know enough to be able to communicate it to, you know, another human being and explain it to them. But it really is a distinct difference. I'm glad you said that because, you know, I've talked to some people, or you see people out there, they only really like just start colts, or they just do one discipline and they just train, and the people kind of need to leave. And it's not an offensive thing. It's just some people are just better with horse by themselves versus with people. You know, a lot of horse trainers aren't good with people, you know.
Right, yeah. It definitely takes a special person to be able to do both.
I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I
So then we would complement each other then.
Do what?
I said we would complement each other then.
Yeah. Well, so that takes, I'm glad you said that. So the collegiate, the whole like collegiate motto, I guess, or kind of the fundamentals of it is teamwork. So you work with a team. It's not like you guys go and you compete as a team, correct?
So we compete in the Intercollegiate Horse Show Association, which is IHSA, and it is more of like a club base. It's not like NCAA, which is like Division I collegiate. So there are two paths you can take in collegiate equestrian. So we compete in more of like the club sport, and so we have like ranges from beginner through advanced in both like hunt seat and western disciplines. And so there is an individual component to the sport as well as a team component. So when we have like a horse show, everyone competes like for themselves. But on kind of like, kind of depends on how your team does it. I personally don't tell my riders like who's our like essentially like they're like our point person for that division. So you pick one person per division to be like your point rider. So whatever points they earn in their class go for your team score.
That's cool.
So, so there's a little bit of both. I do really like our IHSA format because none of them are competing with each other. Essentially, they might be in like the same like class during the horse show, kind of depending how big it is, but they're not competing with each other for their spots to show. And so, you know, it really does take a whole team to put on the horse show, and I try to foster a community of like encouraging each other and having each other's backs, and so lots of camaraderie. And so, you know, it's fun to be around your teammate. And then, you know, kind of with all of that too is like in practice, the way I structure them is you might have like a beginner plus like a more advanced rider in there. So it's a good way to get, you know, like your more advanced riders be able to like help out those that are maybe struggling that I can't get to or my assistant can't get to at the moment, to see each other ride, and, you know, for those lower level to be like, oh, that's what this, you know, needs to look like, you know, whether it's their leg or their hand or like, and it's really good too because they all get to watch each other ride, you know, like a horse that they probably will ride at some point. So just to see like how each individual kind of like takes on that horse and like, you know, the challenges for that day is really really cool.
That is really cool. Now, do they? You just made me think about something. Now, do the members bring their own horse, or does the university supply the horses and like the horses stay with the university?
So at Missouri State, we have a herd of about 25 riding horses that we use for the program. So none of my riders bring their horses in. We provide the horses, we provide the tack, provide the arena. So it, you know, like all they have to do is bring themselves, which is really great because, like, as we all know, horses are extremely expensive. And so it gives opportunity to students who maybe are, you know, have done some showing or some lessoning or, you know, ridden or haven't ridden ever, you know, that I've always wanted to. So it gives lots of students the opportunity to come and ride and be a part of it and, you know, develop a passion and learn some new skills.
Yeah, that is pretty cool because I've always kind of wondered that. I didn't know if it, I mean, I know some of them I've spoken to, that is like a program at the university, so they supply it and then they sell them. They do all kinds of stuff. Do you guys do that too with your horses, or is it just strictly for riding?
So we do breed a handful of horses every year, and so it just kind of depends. Like one year we had 0 luck, and so we didn't have any babies. The last couple years we've had 4 or 5 on the ground, so it just kind of depends. Like right now, I would say like half my herd has been donated to us, and half of them have been like bred and raised in the program. So we try to do kind of, you know, like a replenish, you know, as some retire. Some of those younger, you know, horses that we've bred are coming into the program. And so we do try to like kind of have like a program where we're kind of cycling through. And so it just kind of depends. We do have like a little bit, we're not really like a training program per se, and we don't sell a lot of horses, but that is like kind of like on the side, and a little bit of like a byproduct of some of our like teaching labs and things like that.
That's still pretty cool though, because so that way the program can offer more than just riding and competing. It can offer, you know, all of the education that comes with other things that are associated with horses. Yes. Now you said 4-H a minute ago. Do you guys work with the local 4-H there too, or do you ever have anything else to do with that?
So our local 4-H around here is like very, very, very small. did help out a few years ago, but they were looking for a new like horse superintendent or and so I'm not sure if they have found anyone, and it's kind of like unfortunately like fizzled out. We do work with like some other youth programs, like YITA is the youth, I couldn't tell you what it, YITA is like a Western version youth of like what like our IHSA, so they do like the same kind of format. So it's like a random draw system, and they ride horsemanship. And so we host them, and so we'll host a show for them. And it's just like whatever teams want to come and compete. So we have ones from Arkansas and Oklahoma and Iowa that usually come, in Illinois. So that's kind of like
cool.
where we have inserted ourselves or found good partnerships with youth. And then in our local community, we host like hunt seat clinics and like horse shows and stuff. There's quite a few youth kids in our local hunt seat circuit. So we kind of like try to open the arena as much as we can to like get those kids in and have them experience a little bit of MSU when we can.
That's pretty cool. I was just fixing to ask if, so do any of the student riders, do you guys ever kind of travel outside of the intercollegiate, routine or whatever? Not routine, but, schedule with that. Do you ever travel outside of that to like other local shows and stuff, or no?
Yeah, so in the summer, we still, like most of our horses do get the vacation. They deserve the few months off.
Right.
Mostly like a mental break for them. But, I have a handful of horses that need ridden and stuff, and I'm personally really active in our local hunter-jumper circuit in southwest Missouri, and so I will take a handful, like whoever is around in the summer. So it kind of depends, like how many of my riders stick around town, but we'll go and like show in that local circuit. And our ranch horse team, they will show in like the local like ranch horse shows too. So we do have some students that are out and about during the summer.
That's okay. That's pretty cool, because I was wondering that. I was like, do they have to just strictly stay with the college schedule, or can they go out and do other stuff? And then, like you just said, so you have a ranch team. Do you have a hunt seat team, a ranch team, and then like a western team, or how many teams do you have?
So I coach the western horsemanship, and then we have like a division of reining and ranch riding, and then I also coach the hunt seat team as well. So that is with IHSA, and then I have another colleague and coworker, and they coach the ranch horse team, which shows through the American Stock Horse Association, and they'll do that big ranch horse show in Amarillo. Usually like
I know
spring.
what you're talking about.
Yeah, NERSHA. So they'll do NERSHA and ASHA. So that's separate. I don't have anything to do with them besides just sharing my arena and encouraging them and supporting them where I can as barn manager. So, but they usually practice a couple times a week after us. And so, we've got students that'll do all of the things. My hunt seat captain rides hunt seat. She rides western and is on the ranch horse team. So,
oh wow,
yeah, she's really busy. But who doesn't want to be in the barn every day? So,
right. Well, and I mean,
like
I've already said this before. Like, if you can do multiple disciplines, it helps you all around, anyways. Even if you're going to concentrate on one or not, I think it helps.
Yeah, I agree as well. And, like she is just an amazing writer, and I think she's one of those that is a byproduct of just like any time in the saddle is going to make you better. Like anytime you can get on a horse, like you can work out and get strong and do all of those things, but, writing's kind of unique where like you can't really get those skills unless you're on the horse and you're trying to figure them out or trying something new or getting better at a certain skill or, tool. So I always encourage mine to and I also make all of mine all of my hunt riders will ride Western, and all my Western riders will ride hunt, even though they hate doing that. But I do think it just makes everyone more well-rounded and understand, the other side of the equine industry that they don't have experience with.
Well, you just made me think about something. What is probably one of the biggest things that you see with new people? Well, let me rephrase this. When you have people come into the program, is it usually someone, or is it usually, kids or college students that already have previous horse experience behind them, or do you ever get people that just say, you know what, I'm going to start riding horses in college, and you have to start at ground zero?
So I have a mixture of all of the things. So I do teach an introduction to riding class, and then that beginner level in our riding association is students who have had less than 6 months of riding. So, I have to really specifically in that intro class, I'll be like, hey, do you really like this class? You should come be on the equestrian team. And honestly, I feel like it's easier to get a beginner that you have taught than, having somebody with some type of skill or background in horses coming into your program, because a lot of people know, horse people are a little crazy. We're a little set in our ways. So sometimes if you do something different than their trainer or their grandpa or whoever taught them how to ride, you have to work past that sometimes. And sometimes it's easier when you have cultivated this beginner from ground zero. It's way easier to coach them. They're used to your coaching style. You can put the fundamentals and the correct basic skills in them and not have any of this baggage to deal with. So I do get a mixture of both, and it's kind of for my program to be successful, I need a mixture of all of those people in my program.
You're right about the whole, horse people being, or particularly being taught maybe the incorrect way and just being stubborn about it and things of that nature. Because you are right, horse people can be very set in their ways, and this is right, there's nothing else, blah, blah, blah. And so I could imagine it would probably be easier to have a clean slate versus having to go against something that's been ingrained in somebody.
Yes, yeah. And, kind of see it and I always tell all of my beginner students, I love teaching the beginners because they're actually excited and they're listening and they want to get, they want to get better so they can do the other fun things, and sometimes when you've got someone who's ridden all their life or ridden fairly consistent, they're half tuned out half the time because I already know how to do this, or I already know how to do a circle. I'm well, clearly not if your horse is counterbent all the way around, and so sometimes I think motivation and again, you were alluding to, just being open-minded of learning something differently can be it can be a real struggle. And even when I take lessons still, because you can always learn something new, and sometimes I have to get out of my head and be you should be open to learning something a little bit different. It'll probably help you, or again, you don't realize that you're not doing something or that you are doing something incorrect. And just being open to someone telling you that can be a real struggle too. So
well, yeah, it can be. You're right, because I think, and I don't know if you agree with me or not, but I think that's probably one of the biggest struggles that the entire horse industry has, is that, it seems to be a thing where horse people just think that this is it, this is the way, there's no other way different. But that may be coming from somebody who's ridden just the same horse for 10 years, and then you have people that ride multiple horses with different personalities and different things all the time. I would rather take their advice versus somebody like me. Like I mean, I really only had success with like one horse, so there's no telling what else is out there to know. But it's amazing because you're right. When you sit back and look at people just talk about the horse industry and people talk about training and all this kind of stuff, they'll get very set in what they're saying, and it's like, okay, no, there's other ways to do it.
Yes, yeah. And, I totally see that all the time because in, like, the collegiate riding stuff, like, it's not about sitting on the best horse, and it's not about being able to, like, push the buttons on the fanciest thing or, maneuver around like a green horse. Like, you have to be able to do all of it. And so, I always talk about like developing your like toolbox. And so like you should have a toolbox with a bunch of different tools and aids and the ability to like wield all of those differently depending on the horse that you have. And so like, like in our herd we have like some horses that are kind of sensitive, and then we have ones that of course could care less that you've been kicking for the last 3 minutes. And some horses that like you can barely like pull on the rein or, like put pressure on the rein and they'll turn or do whatever. And like other horses who you have to pull so hard and everything in between. And, like the other thing is like our horses get ridden a lot. And so they have a lot of different people on them. And I think that like brings out their personality too, because like I can tell when like, someone has hit all the right buttons on that day and they're tuned to that, they're using their toolbox correctly, and then, someone else gets on the next day and like are using the wrong tools or using tools that worked on the horse that they rode previously, that they're not switching it out. So, it's one of those things where I think some horse people like get in the thought of like, well, these are the tools. Like this is like a universal thing that'll help every horse. And I think the collegiate stuff really like humbles you, because like you find out that one like seen on TV tool does not work all the time.
Right.
So you have to like figure out, like be open to developing all these different tools and, thought processes through all the different horses that you encounter.
Well, and that's got to be able to, I mean, like, to push the box open and to be able to keep your opinion to yourself and to keep your mind open. It could be easy for people to want to sit back in the comfort of, okay, well, I know this horse, so I'm just going to stick with this horse, and this is what I know is going to be push button, and we're going to do it this way. So it's cool to be able to, they have no other choice but to be open-minded. Like they can't sit in that comfort because you've got so many different horses there, right?
Right. Yes. Yeah. There's no just like, I'm going to sit on the lazy boy and like, sit there. You have to like, it's like operating like a robot. Like there are lots of bells and whistles, and you better press the right button or you might get the wrong thing. So, but yeah, it's just interesting, like as you see students come in with like various backgrounds and horses, and just seeing how like some of them are like will adapt to the changing environment and some of them don't really. And honestly, some of them come in and they're like, I don't like this. Like they would rather stick to one horse and learn those specific, buttons and tools for that one horse and be comfortable. And I think that's totally okay.
Right.
I realize like the, riding different horses isn't for everyone. And so,
but you'll need to be able to do that if you want to have a career in the horse.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Just, being able to navigate lots of different horses and their personalities and stuff, and definitely needed to be successful and not drive yourself crazy in the horse industry.
Well, and so that leads to my next thing. What is what do most of the people that graduate out of this program, what do they end up doing? Is it usually like, do you say it's probably like 50% of people just do it just to do it and then just kind of move on to whatever else they were going to do? Or do most of these people actually pursue a horse career with what they've got, or maybe veterinary or whatever, something horse related?
Yeah, so the other cool thing about our program is, especially like the team, like I have students all across campus participate. So I've got like a nursing student, I've had an engineer, I've had
Oh,
like
cool.
a business. So like it's not specific, like you don't have to be like an equine student or like an ag student to participate on the team. So we get a lot of, I have a criminology major right now, so we get like a smattering of all of the things across campus. But within our like equine like academic program, we have added the equine science major in the last couple of years. So it's still relatively new and like not really well known, but we do also have a equine studies minor. And so those students that we've seen like be equine focused or have graduated with the equine degree, there's a handful that are like pre-vet students. We have a lot of pre-vet students at Missouri State. I've had like one student that went and worked for a polo trainer, and now she's at a big hunter jumper barn. We've had students
Cool.
like go on to like do some internships at the various like repro places like in Oklahoma. All of those like Lazy J, Lazy S, or I
Yeah,
always get them
yeah.
all mixed up. But some of those
I'm
like
picking up
bigger
where you're
repro
going.
places, yeah. Had one student work for the 4-6s, so it's just kind of like all over. We've had a student that currently is my coworker, but she was the barn manager for an equine therapies place. So kind of like, a little bit of everything. And so we do see students, still go out and do horse things. And of course, a lot of my students that have graduated from the team, I would say most of them have continued to ride, even if they weren't doing that before they graduated. So to me, that I feel like that speaks volumes of like how the team has, hopefully helped develop the passion for horses, and hopefully is helping to contribute to the equine industry as a whole. So
Well, it's weird because I was just sitting here thinking as I was listening, colleges you have basketball, volleyball, football, you have all these sports, and people don't really think anything more of that. They're like, oh, okay, well, that's just your normal sport. And then you have horses.
mm-hmm.
Well, horses is still sport. Like it's still sport. It could still be sport related as far as
Mm-hmm.
in a collegiate setting, or even, it's a competition based industry.
Mm-hmm.
We have all
Yeah.
these competitions out there. So it's cool that you guys are able to have that. And I didn't realize how big collegiate was until like this last 2 years. Like I had no
Mm-hmm.
idea, and I've been around horses my whole life. I had no idea that this stuff was going on, and I think it's really interesting.
Yeah, I feel like, if you're not like near the college age or like know someone college age, I think the collegiate equestrian stuff can be kind of like sidelined and you don't like really see or know about it.
Yeah,
And I think that the D1 stuff has really helped collegiate equestrian too, because it serves a different population, but also has brought to light, more of the collegiate stuff. I just say it's been around for a very long time, and we've seen, like some ups and downs, especially around COVID. Of course, that has like messed up all of the things, but we're seeing, especially like in our region, we've seen an increase of students, which is
that's
really
good.
exciting. Yeah. So, we're hoping like as, like more people are involved, of course, like people will know about it. And because it is really cool and super unique, it is a very targeted audience, but I think that, it's important to develop and like instill some passion in this like younger generation of, equine professionals or, equine enthusiasts, because, the industry has been, um, I won't say like totally declining, but, we're seeing less and less, and like why, like they even have done like a study at like AQHA where it's like the youth membership is at this X number, but then it drops down, like after, students graduate college to like mid-30s, like that amount of membership has decreased significantly. So like, what are we doing to, maintain the industry within like that age group? So I think part of it is hopefully getting them excited before that so that they will continue to be excited and contribute to the industry during that age group.
You just brought up a good point because, well, I mean, I don't think a lot of people realize that Yellowstone helped spread an exposure to the lifestyle. And so you add that along with COVID, which people thought was a joke, and people are online, and so they're online more. They see more and more and more of this horse world, and it got so hyped up and so heightened up to a level that was not sustainable. And so and now it's kind of going back down to kind of where it was again because, Yellowstone's not owned anymore and COVID's not around. People are outside and stuff. Do you think that, well, I guess what I'm trying to say is, do you think that it's going to come back up again at any point, or do you think that it's just going to kind of stay where it's at unless we have something else that's going to help kind of expose the industry? Because, horses it's not football, it's not cheerleading, it's not any of that kind of stuff. There's a whole nother extra curricular job associated with having a horse, So it's hard to make it as attractive. We had the plus side of having Yellowstone's exposure to the horse world in general. And there was people wanting to do it left and right, which raised the prices left and right, and now it's like, okay, well, what are we going to do to keep that?
Yeah. And, I think a lot of people, like during COVID were like, I don't want to be inside. So, like, everything they would do inside, right, disappeared. And so, why not at this time follow my horse passion?
Right.
And so, like we have seen that like crazy increase in, horse price, which has been like really great and really terrible. And so, I think, we have seen kind of like this, decline in the last, year or so, I would say. And, I'm not sure if it's going to, go back down like to pre-COVID levels or if it's going to go back up. But I think we also have to like ask like what is like the quality there, like do we just want anybody in the industry, or are we still like wanting to maintain some type of like quality of the industry? And so
that's a touchy.
Of course
I'm glad you just said that.
I'm probably going to get blasted on the internet for saying that. But
but
it's true, right? Because it's like, do we want our neighbor Bob to have the super nice green horse that is now just sitting there? Or, like someone, I want this Palomino horse. How many times have we all heard, like, what kind of horse do you want? Well, I want a buckskin, or I want a Palomino. Like, but why?
Right. You're right.
And so I think, like part of that increase are like more people like that, and so I think we have to like kind of ask ourselves like, where do we want the industry to go? And like the other issue is like inflation and all of that. Like everything is so expensive. And like I teach just a handful of lessons on the side, mostly in the summer. And, it's hard, like you can probably ask any professional, is like it's hard to find clients who want to like pay you what you're worth, like, it's not a soccer, practice where I'm giving you this like inanimate object to kick around and we're going to be on this field that requires little to no maintenance versus like, I have this horse and it requires all of these things even when you're not here. And so to like, to be able to offer that at a price, I feel like there's still like a lot of people, and it might be different in other parts of the United States, but even when I was in South Dakota, like nobody wanted to pay my lesson fee. Um, but it's like, but I have to maintain this horse, or I have to like drive 30 minutes to see you, or I have to like rent this arena out, to teach this lesson or whatever. So I do think some of that is also going to kind of stunt the growth of the industry, because you're going to see, like either professionals are going to be getting out of it, or like again, people don't want to pay for those kind of like necessary, or those things that are going to make it better, and so
it's very luxury. It's very, I
yes,
don't think people realize that having a horse is now definitely considered a luxury. It was considered a luxury
yes,
before, like what you're saying. The soccer ball is $30. You buy it once, and then you have your lessons. But horses are definitely affected as far as if you want to keep a horse, okay, we'll feed, vet care, farrier, training, all that kind of good stuff, which a lot of those things are going to fluctuate, like we'll feed, and the price of those types of things are going to fluctuate along with keeping a horse. Whereas, like we just said, with soccer or football or things like that, you don't necessarily have as much of a financial commitment.
right, yeah, it's not like you have to feed your soccer ball every day.
Right, exactly.
And the soccer ball doesn't need, the PMF and chiropractic and fancy shoes and all of those things, and but yeah, it's just hard to like tell like a non-horse person like what goes into it. I feel like some people just don't realize like all of the extra like everyday costs that go into maintaining a horse, so.
Yeah, it is a lot. Now, as far as, you just touched on something else with the industry, we have to ask ourselves, like, the quality and things of that nature. I think that could be a double-edged sword as far as horse industry is concerned, because you have a lot of the times we're kind of closed off of new people coming in. It's very hard for new or non-horse people to come in, because I feel like I've seen a lot of people get very, oh, okay, well, it's just the tolerance for the lack of education for a non-horse person versus taking the opportunity to teach people things. But then on the flip side, like you said, the quality of it, you can't have just Joe Blow down the road who doesn't know anything and doesn't care to learn anything go buy this animal, and then now you have issues with, a starved horse, or you have, they're dumping it off somewhere else, or they can't handle it, or et cetera, or they can't afford it, so it is very much a double-edged sword, and it's sad because what are you going to do about it?
Right. And, the other kind of like part of that equation too, and maybe it's different like in your area, but I do feel like horse people are also like very cliquey. And
no, I 110% agree.
Yeah. And so like when I first moved to Missouri, like I didn't know about anything really in the community, and like at the time I wasn't like showing or competing or anything, and so I was just of course like trying to get my feet wet in my job and like maintain sanity through my first year. And so but like I didn't make any community contacts. Like nobody reached out to me. Like there was no like community partnerships or anything. And I thought that was like kind of weird, because I feel like as a university, like you should probably have like some contacts in the community. Like it should be, like pretty apparent where the horse people are. And I feel like sometimes you get into, like you move somewhere as a horse person and you have like, and I've heard this from several different people that have moved into our area too. So, but it's like you move here and then it's like, where are all the horse people? Like you have no idea where anything is. Like what farrier do you use? Like who's a good vet? Like what feed store do you go to? Or you know what I mean? Like, or like who rides in certain disciplines or whatever. And it's like a Where's Waldo? Like you're trying to find that group or like those resources, and it's really hard to find them when you like move into a community, because I feel like some horse people are so like closed within their cliques. Like, they don't want to give up their resources. And, like, some people are really great at, like, sharing those things, but you have to find that person. And then, so, like, a couple years ago, I bought my thoroughbred and started showing again, and, like, randomly came across, like, our local hunt seat, our hunter jumper organization, and I was like, I don't know if, like, this is a thing or not. Found out that it was, and we started going to horse shows. And so, like, I remember, like, the first couple horse shows, like, people would just stare at me and be like, who are these people? I'm like, I promise I'm capable. Like, I do work at the university. But it was just, like, interesting because, like, it took, like, half the horse show season for someone, like, for them to, like, warm up to me and, like, ask me questions, and, like, for me to feel, like, comfortable, like, actually reaching out and being like, hey. But, like, once you're in that community, right, like, I feel like the world opens up, which is, like, I think really special about, you know, horse people is, like, when you do find your community, like, they will stand by you and they will help you out and they will be there for you. And that's what I've always experienced, like, but you have to find that community first. And I think that's hard, and I think that also probably inhibits, you know, just, you know, Joe down the road bought a horse, and now he's like, I don't know where to go. You know what I mean? And so it's like,
Oh, yeah.
Trying to find the balance of, like, reaching out to that person, or, like, having those resources available for people who are interested in getting involved in the horses. And so, like, I think we kind of do it to ourselves, like you said, like a double-edged sword. Like, maybe okay that we're a little standoffish, but also that bites us in the butt because you totally might miss out on some really great people and resources by doing that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it also kind of keeps the industry secluded, and it keeps it where it's at. It's not going to grow if we keep thinking that way. But you're absolutely right, and it's harder when you're older. I think it's easier when you're a young kid and you're doing 4-H, or you're doing all this kind of stuff or whatever, and you're, you know, just flopping around and doing your thing as a kid. That's cool. It's even harder when you're older because you know, to get into it, like you say. I've experienced that too, because I remember back in the day showing, and, you know, we didn't really have a lot of money and all that kind of, we didn't have a trainer, so I had to figure it out myself. And I clearly remember going up to people and just trying to speak to them, and them not even speaking back, like, just not, like, get away kids, like, you know, we're not talking to you, you know. So I agree. I've experienced that before, and it can be disheartening, and it can be like, okay, well, why am I doing this?
Exactly. Yeah, you're like, is this actually worth it?
But you are right. When you do find a good group or a good barn and a good kind of family around it, which I agree with you, it can be hard to get to that point because, you know, there's some horror stories out there. I remember this one article where this girl was at this barn, and it was just like a horrible experience for her, and they just bullied her and mean girled her. They were young, you know, and they, like, cut the horse's tail off and spray painted it and did all kinds of mean stuff. So there's some horror stories out there, but you're right. Once you find that group, it's cool, and you can get somewhere, and you've got each other's back and stuff like that. But it's still competitive at the end of the day, which that's something that's very taboo. We don't talk about it enough. So I don't know if I want to bring it up or not, but it's like, I don't know if anybody else sees this difference, but I feel like I have. I feel like in the 90s and 2000s, we competed in the arena, and then when we come out of the arena, it was left there. You didn't come out. You didn't bring it outside with you. You know, you helped each other band your horse's manes. You helped each other bathe them, and you helped each other do things. But once you set foot in the arena, it was on. Like, you were competing with each other. You're not friends anymore. And now I feel like when I watch stuff, which I don't show, I'm not there, but when I watch stuff now, it's like I feel like people, when they get in the arena, they're all friendly. But when they come out of the arena, I feel like it's more friction when you watch people just kind of, I don't know the right word. It gets, like you said, cliquey. It gets catty. It gets drama. It gets all kinds of stuff. And you're like, whoa, y'all. So I don't know if you experienced that or not with the team. You probably don't put up with it. So
yeah, I mean, for, like, team, like our inner team, conflicts, I do try to stay out of those as much as possible. We have like an officer board for the team, and so like they have their captains, and so like if they have an issue, they know that there's a protocol, like you like tell your captain, and then like if you guys can't get it resolved, then it comes to one of the coaches. And so like unfortunately, like with us, like when you put 20 to 30 college students, and they're all mostly women, I've had a couple men on the team, but it's majority women, you put them together, there's going to be conflict.
Right.
And so like part of it is like all of my team knows like I'm not going to put up with it. And like if they have an issue, that then like they either need to resolve it, or if it's to a certain point they need to bring it to me to resolve. But like there's no like being catty in front of me, like I'm not dealing with that. But I also feel like with like social media and stuff, like that has made everything more complicated as far as like team camaraderie, or like even like in like the industry, like just being like kind to each other, and things like that. I think that's hard because it's like like you don't see everyone's struggles, right? So it's like you don't know what it took that person to get to that first place, or even that sixth place, and you don't know their struggle to get to that point. And of course, like comparing each other, like that's really hard. And so like it is a competitive sport, and like no matter like if you are best friends with someone, if you're entering the arena in the same class or together or whatever, like it's not like you're gonna quit riding or like screw up for your best friend. Like that's not the reality.
Right.
Like me and my best friend, like we compete in the same division, like in our local circuit, and like she's my competition, and like me and her have talked about it before. It's like I am like super encouraging of her, and like like we'll help each other out and stuff, but like I'm not gonna go slow so that she can win. Like I'm gonna try to beat her, but like whether she beats me or I beat her or whatever, like that should stay at the show, like. And I think that's sometimes hard for people to like separate, like show days or whatever, with like the rest of life. And I think part of that is like horses bring out such a passion in people that it is hard to separate, because like horses are my life. Like my poor family, like I'll tell my husband like I'm gonna go to the barn, and he's like, okay boys, say bye to mom, you'll see her tomorrow. Like I'm like, I'm only gonna be there for an hour, but I just feel like horses are, it's like such a passionate like thread in people's lives. I feel like it's sometimes hard for them to like see through that sometimes, and I think that's where some of that like cattiness and that like mean girlness can like come out. Like sometimes you have to separate a little bit of that and like find some balance in your life with those things.
It is very hard to separate that in your brain, because here you are like, this is supposed to be my friend, but now I'm going to compete against my friend, so it's very hard mentally I remember being younger, and even when you get older, I mean, age actually really doesn't even matter. It's hard to mentally keep that separated. And make sure you're on good terms with people. Nobody wants to have problems with people, you know what I mean? So
yeah, exactly.
It's a hard line to walk when you do that together.
Yep. And and like with the team and stuff, like I mean, you'll see that with some of the girls, like if they they practice together and then they have to show against each other, like you can get into that like comparison game, and some of those like maybe not necessarily ill feelings towards them, but I mean, either it's going to be productive and you can be like, well, I want to be better than her and use it like productively, or, like, again, you can like, the other side is like you can let it eat away at you, in that you can let it, filter into your like relationship with that friend or teammate, and like, it can work poorly as well. So, horses are a mental game, it is totally physical.
This is why
also,
horse people are crazy, though.
Yes, yeah, because we have all of these things in our head, trying to multitask, and like it's a mental thing. And so like, and I also feel like people who want to get into the industry don't realize that either. Like, even if you're gonna just leisurely ride, like there is a huge mental component to that I don't think a lot of people realize too.
Yeah, and it's like, if you don't realize it's there, or you just choose to ignore it, it's going to make it worse for you in the long run, instead of trying to maybe, confront it head on and be like, look, I'm going to have to show against my friend, or I'm going to have to, do this and do that and things of that nature, because it's not team oriented in the real, I don't want to say real show world, but outside of collegiate, it's not, you go to a regular show or whatever, it's just you against everybody else.
Exactly, yeah. Like, in the industry is very different than the collegiate world, which is like, we end up being in this like little bubble in her collegiate world that sometimes it's hard for them, to like go back out and be in like the real industry, like it is very different. But, also like, I always tell like my riders, like, this is the only time you'll ever be able to do this, is like within these 4 years. So you might as well.
Right.
And have fun doing it, But yeah.
Now, as far as the, you guys just had, we talked about this, you guys just had a Eras series, correct? Or just the Eras show?
Just the Eras show, yeah.
How did that go down? Was it just called the Eras show, or did you have specific little errors? Like, because I'm a Taylor Swift fan, just like you, and so I was like, I saw that and I was like, stop it.
So we're huge Swifties at the barn, so on a given day you'll probably hear Taylor Swift at some point playing in the arena. Sophie, my hunt seat captain, she helped me like organize a show. So we put on this hunt seat show for our local circuit, and we use it as a fundraiser, because whatever funds that, profit we get from the horse show goes towards the team. So since we have to fundraise quite a bit of our funds for the year, it's an easy like way to do that, and like, of course, open up the barn to the community. And so in the past, like, some of the shows in our circuit have been like themed, they all have a like a name, like Splash into Summer or whatever. And so I don't know, I don't even remember if it was her or me, but I was like, we should do an Era show, and we were like, oh my gosh, yes. So
I think
we
it's
did.
so cool.
So we did, so like all of our jumps were each of like her albums, and so we had like a Fearless and like a Reputation and a Debut and a Lover and all of that. And then like we played Taylor Swift music all day. We had like a Friendship Bracelet station, and like all of us, like all of the team members that came and helped out with the horse show, or whoever helped out with the horse show, we had we had a shirt, like an Eras shirt made up that we did. All of my social media posts were Taylor Swift themed, so it was really fun and really exciting. And so it was just really cool, because this is kind of off topic, but kind of funny in relation to all this. So with the, the jumping, like, you have to have like all of these flowers and stuff. And so I was like, how are we going to get all these different colored flowers? Because flowers are very expensive.
Right.
If you've ever gone to Hobby Lobby. And I was just like, I don't know how we're going to do this. So one of my riders this past spring had I was like, you need to call like a cemetery or like a memorial place and ask them
That's
if like
not a bad idea.
they want to do donations. And she's like, okay, whatever, I'll do it. And like, I guess I called around or whatever. So this one cemetery in town lost her number, but they got a hold of me like through like 3 other people on campus. And I called her and I was like, hey, I was just calling about the flowers. She's like, yeah, we just pulled a bunch off. Like, if you want to come and pick them up. I was like, yeah, like when works? She's like, tomorrow. And I was like, great. Because like it was like Thursday and we were going to set up for the show on Friday. And I was like, perfect. So I get there and she's like, yeah, you might, like bring a truck or something. You might have to take a couple of trips. And I was like, it's fine. Like, I'm going to take the dually. Like, it'll be fine. Like, there'll be enough room. I get there and there are like, no joke, there's probably like 30, 40 bags, like giant black trash bags full of fake flowers. So I load up the dually, and it's like just overflowing, stuffed the cab, and it probably took us all afternoon to like unload the flowers and sort through them. But we have like a rainbow of fake flowers. So we like super decorated the jumps, and so like each of those jumps had like their theme, and it was glorious and beautiful, and we really want to do it again. So we have like all the things, and so we were like, we'll just make one of our hunt seat shows, like our collegiate shows, like an heiress theme, and just bring everything out. So there might be like 3 heiress theme shows in the next year.
I'm down for it.
So.
I think it's amazing. I think you should just do them all like that because I
agree.
a Taylor Swift fan back in the day. I wasn't, and then I recently have become one. Probably within the last 4 to 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of been like really following her and like listening to her music and stuff. And she is badass. She is badass. Like she is just really, if you just actually take the time to listen to her stuff and just see how she has come back from everything, astonishes me. I even saw a TikTok like today or yesterday where her tour in Germany, one of the nights or whatever, she's got the multiple night things going on.
Mm-hmm.
The park outside of the stadium where the show's being held at, they had thousands, like I think they said tens of thousands of people all over the hilltops listening to her that were, she sold out the stadium, yes,
yeah.
and then the outside land around it was just covered in people.
That's crazy.
And I was like, that speaks volumes, man. Like,
yes.
Whether you like her or not, you should definitely freaking listen to her.
Yeah.
She's killing it.
Well, I also, like, super appreciate that she has, like, changed like her style over the years, and so it's like it's not like she has sung the same type of song like over and over and over again. Like each album you're like, what Taylor is it gonna be? Like, is it gonna be a new Taylor? Is it gonna be like an old Taylor? Is it gonna be like, so I like think that's what I like really appreciate about her, because I'm like, sometimes I like country Taylor and like sometimes I like dark moody Taylor. Like there's Taylor for any mood that you want to be in,
Right. And
so.
she's a good role model for. I think
agree,
I remember
yes.
seeing somebody saying something like, somebody's dad was talking about how I don't want my kid to. I don't like Taylor Swift, and somebody kind of just clearly called him out. It was on Facebook or somewhere or something like that, and they were like, you know what? Regardless whether you like her, your daughter should look up to her. And he kind of like ended up agreeing with the lady. I don't know how I ended up on this thread reading this stuff, but I was like, that's a pretty valid point. Like, you would want your daughter to look up to this girl. Like, give me a break.
Yeah, she's so cool and like just a kind, like genuine human being, it feels like. So yeah, she's wonderful.
Well, I wanted to ask you too, real quick, when in the program. So you have your students come out, they do the program, they do all of the kind of different levels that you have and stuff. Do you have like a system or a point system or a grade system, I guess, better yet, on not just writing, but do you look at these students and they have to do well in barn care, they have to do well in horse care, they have to do well in writing, do they have to do well in all multiple different areas, or just strictly writing?
So, the other part about like our program is like they're not like responsible for like general barn care. Like I have a whole like feed crew that like takes care of the barn that are also students. But like I do require them.
Separated.
Yes. Yep. So, but I do require them to like they are required to like clean up the horses before horse shows and like at the beginning of each of the semesters. They have to take care of the tack. I do require them to like sweep the tack room and like clean up the tie area, like, and do some of those things. And then they are required to do like barn work and stuff before the horse show to prep the arena. So like dusting and sweeping and, you know, cleaning, all of those things. So, and then like, so they essentially are put in a committee at the beginning of the year. And so they're like either facility prep or horse prep right before horse shows. And we do host a lot. So it ends up being like at least 3 times a semester, like things they have to do, you know, something. And so, and kind of depending on the schedule and stuff, like I'll assign them like a horse that they have to like groom extra or things like that. But this year, we're going to try out a new kind of like point system, just because it's sometimes hard to get them motivated to do more than just like the bare minimum. You know, you'll have like a handful of students that are just spectacular. Like you mentioned, like this one thing, this one time, and this one offhanded comment, and like the next day it's done, you know. And you know, some students that will just do anything for you and like do anything for the horses, be out at the barn every day. And then you have those students who want to be a horse person or like want to be involved, but like don't want to put all the extra work into it. And kind of, you know, like all the in between, you know, like they want to come and ride and have fun, but they don't want to, you know, they don't want to bathe a horse or sweep or do this or do that. So we have developed a reward system because we don't have scholarships or anything, so it's not like if you don't do this, we're going to take your scholarship away. Like I do require them to practice, and if they don't practice, they don't get to show. Same thing is like I do require them to work out twice a week, and so like if they don't do their workouts, then they don't get to practice. If they don't practice, they don't get to show. So it's kind of like worked for the most part, but we saw some people exploit the system this last year, and so we're going to try our reward system. And so like if you see them go above and beyond, if their teammate has seen them, you know, like their captain has seen them go above and beyond, they'll get like rewarded with points essentially. And so like rewards range from anything from like you can pick out your horse for practice because there are some that, you know, love a certain horse, to like you can miss one workout. And then like other rewards that we are thinking about is just like you know, paying for like a lesson with like an outside instructor, and then we've kind of thought about doing like a fun like team trip. And so like if you earn enough points, you can go on this like team trip. So, you know, we thought about going to like, you know, like the cow horse champion, you know, the NRCHA celebration of champions, or, you know, like there's some big like hunt seat shows, or, you know, like something fun that we could all go to and like learn from. And so we're going to try that out to see if that helps motivate them. But it, you know, it's kind of hard because like it is kind of like a club sport, and so you can't like force them to do anything.
Well, I can understand where that would probably be very frustrating, because you've probably got both ends of the spectrum. You know, you've got, if it's a team environment, it's hard to make sure everybody carries the same weight, so that way you don't have any friction, and you don't have this person doing more than they should, and this person's getting by with doing nothing, and then da-da-da-da-da. So, you know, that's got to be a hurdle that you have to look at, and then you have to do it with different people every, you know, so often. So
yeah, and it's hard too, because like you will have like someone, and that's kind of where like that like catty like ill feelings stem from, is like, well, I swept the tack room 3 times, and so just left after practice, or like, you know, every teammate has to help out when we host a horse show. Like that person hid in the concession stand for half the day, and then was like on their phone, the other half. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I understand and I hear you. However, like there's a horse show going on and I have like
Yeah.
800 other things to do. And so like, and so like sometimes like they know I'm busy or they know my assistant's busy or whatever, and then like that kind of festers and like culminates. And so like sometimes you have those things that happen too, which is hard to manage. And so, trying to develop systems and like, just so everyone knows what the expectation is and like, if you don't follow through with this, then like X, Y, and Z is going to happen. And so just like, again, managing 20 to 30 college-age women does have its challenges.
Right. I can imagine.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, it's a good thing. It's not always a bad thing.
Yeah.
We all joke about it, but
yeah. It's wonderful. They most of the time they are wonderful and I love them so much and appreciate all of them for who they are, but every once in a while it gets to be a little much.
Yeah, well, I mean, it is what it is. You can't really argue it, but I do think it's cool that you require the workouts because, I've seen a lot of different debates about people and horses and riders and weight and things of that nature, or just not necessarily weight, but just being in shape versus not in shape and stuff. I don't think people realize how much of an advantage it is when you are in shape, regardless of weight.
Yes.
But if you are in shape when you ride, because it's a big difference.
Yeah, and like my motto in the barn is strong riders win. And like if you are not doing some type of like physical activity outside of riding, like you're not going to be able to like control your body like you need it to. Like horsemanship and like the hunting stuff, it's really all about like body control. And like if you can't like hold your leg or your arm or your like your middle, your seat like the way you need it to be, like you're not going to be able to and so it's like one of those things is like you require your horse to like go around in the sand and do all of the things and essentially work out every day. I mean, you should kind of hold that standard a little bit to yourself. And like the other part for me is, especially in like my setting, is like I was a college student once and I had some really terrible habits.
Right.
And so, part of it is just helping them develop good habits. I mean, it's not like they do like a very short workout. It's mostly like weight-based, a little bit of cardio, but it's not like we're going to go, we're not going to pump iron to be bodybuilders. We are just honing those muscles and making them strong so that when you sit on the horse and ride, you're able to hold your body up there correctly for whatever amount of time you need to. But also it helps, develop good habits. Like hopefully if you're putting some extra effort into working out and things like that, hopefully you're thinking about, oh, yeah, like maybe I shouldn't have eaten the ice cream at 9 o'clock at night and then worked out at 7 o'clock in the morning. Like, like sometimes ice cream's necessary. I totally get that. But, thinking about just, thinking past the working out, but other healthy habits, especially in college, because, I mean, as we all know, like when you get on your own, sometimes you make poor choices. So hopefully, some of those things will help you make better choices.
Well,
for the
yeah,
long run.
It's just kind of like, it took me a while to kind of understand this concept, but, working out, I think a lot of women can get into the wrong mindset of working out to look good, which is fine, but your body, it's actually an investment in your body because, in your health, and you want to be able to still work or ride horses or do whatever you do when you come 40 and 50 or 60 years old, later on in life. It's actually just an investment to keep your body up so that you can, live a long life and not have that many issues or whatever. But that is cool that you require that because I think a lot of people kind of just, I don't want to say get lazy, but they put a lot of work onto the horse.
Yes.
And it's respectful to you and your horse to try to be a little better as a rider.
Yes, yeah, I totally agree. Like if working out, twice a week or once a week or whatever is going to help your horse out and help you out, like why not? Like I feel like that's a really small investment, and like you don't have to spend any money to do it,
Right.
So it's like it's a cheap, easy way to enhance your riding, enhance your your productivity and your success rate in the arena, so.
Now, how long have you been at the university?
This will be my 6th year. So
oh, wow. You've been doing it for a while.
Yes. Yeah. So it's, it's kind of hard because my, like my first semester was fine, and the second semester was when COVID happened. And then,
oh, wow. It has been that long since COVID.
Yes. And then like that next year was like really weird because we didn't have a collegiate season. We did some virtual shows.
Oh,
but
really?
Of course we did. So within our region, we like hosted a virtual show. So we had, we used a program, and so you would like go on the program and you would tap like, I'm going to record, and then you would go to your phone and then record and then upload that video. And so on the backside it like time stamped it, so you couldn't cheat. So you couldn't record like 3 times and upload your best one. Like you had to record the one that you said you were recording. Like it gave you like a 30-second window or something. So it was almost real time, sort of, kind of. But we had like, it was kind of nice because we had some like judges like more that we wouldn't normally use in a season just because of like distance and proximity and things like that, like get to like judge our students and stuff. So we did like a virtual season that like the second, my second full year. And of course we had a bunch of mandates and things like that. So my second year was just weird because it didn't feel normal. So like my 3rd year, I felt like was my first year. Like this is the first real year.
Yeah, you kind of walk in and like, okay, we're doing this, and then whack.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, and I had a baby. Yes. And then I had a baby in there, and so it was just like it's been like a weird 6 years or 5, almost 6 years for me to just trying to
well,
figure it all out.
On that though.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. Well, he's 3 now, so
Well, I remember. I mean, I don't think people realize how hard it was on the producers or even like people like you and the universities and to put on a horse show, because I mean I do awards and embroidery and stuff like that, so I kind of had a first-hand deal. It was really hard for those people because you could literally have a place booked up and then it would be like changed within a week, and then you had to try to find another place, or you were lucky to get one, or if you didn't get one, and like things had to be changed. It was insane. So I sometimes look back at that and like, I don't know how the horse industry survived it, but it did, because there other people were trying to do those virtual shows, and I think a few ended up doing them too.
Yeah, and it's like also hard, like during that year you didn't know if you were going to have 5 people or 50 people,
Yeah.
So how do you plan for that? So, yeah. Which is like kind of cool that it like has come back as strong as it has, because I feel like it could have totally taken a nosedive, like totally destroyed the industry, and thankfully that didn't happen.
But we made it out. Everybody made it out alive.
We did. Yep, we did. We're on the other side.
Right.